From the Four Rivers Cultural Center in Ontario, Oregon, we bring you the third annual Tradition Keepers Festival, highlighting cultural artists in Oregon's Treasure Valley and beyond. In this episode, you'll meet folk musicians Joe Seamons and Tina Breyer-Dietz.
You're learning to sing in church. You're learning to sing for the Lord, not for your own gratification or for anybody else's ears. You're supposed to take yourself completely out of the equation, or not yourself, but anybody besides you and Jesus Christ, the Lord, out of the equation. And I think that informs my singing because it makes it more free. It takes ego out of the whole equation. And I definitely use that in my singing now. It helps me sing everything else that I sing. So, hearing Bessie Smith sing gave me that same feeling, like she was singing because she had to, and
So you're a conduit for your audience's emotions, really.
Yeah. Or try to be.
Through growing up in the around different parts of Columbia County, including Rainier, I was able to learn about the history of the white folks who logged this place and fished the rivers. There weren't any visibly Native people in the communities I was connected with, and so the tradition came to me. The recent tradition of Northwest folk music that I perform came to me from really two sources: Hobie Kiter and Dave Berge. And Hobie is a folklorist and amazing musician based in Astoria, Oregon. He writes wonderful songs about the different fishing practices on the river of the recent days, and then also the logging operations that took out the vast majority of the old growth trees, and things like the Tillamook Burn are also in Hobie's music. So David was the man who did the work that Hobie wrote about. Really, David Berge was a fisherman and a logger, and wrote just a few songs. Hobie was much more prolific than Dave, but they had a duo together when I was a child. And so I heard their music around campfires and at parties and on a cassette tape from the age of 0, really.
I went to the Port Townsend Acoustic Blues Festival through Centrum.
The Centrum Foundation.
Yeah, the Centrum Foundation. This is one of the festivals that they hold, and I went there and met Joe, and he was just doing all of these really wonderful things in music, and I was just sort of naturally gravitated to that. And he was telling me about his work with the Rhapsody Project, and I just got really interested in what he was teaching, and so I wanted to learn more from him so that I could help him teach it, because it just sounded so important. Learning more about singers in the past, and musicians in the past, and just artists in the past, and how what they were singing reflected the world around them. And I'm always just trying to connect to that in the nows, and that music connects to what's happening now in our culture as it was connected to the culture in the past. And so I just saw that line being drawn, and I was really interested in being a part of that whole process. We met so many wonderful people, and they were our age, and they were playing this music and felt that same connection to blues, and we just really hit it off.
So we learned that it was a living tradition. It wasn't just a relic of these old scratchy recordings. It was something that was ongoing and continues to evolve as time goes on.
We support each other by playing music together.
By trying to stay in touch.
Mm-hmm.
By gathering every year in person as much as
and going to
possible.
The Thing.
Yeah, the Thing should also be mentioned, right?
Yeah, it should. Our friend Dina, who we met at the acoustic festival in
Elkins, West Virginia.
Thank you.
The Augusta Heritage Center.
Thank you. We met her there, and she wanted to do another such gathering of people just at another time of the year so that we could keep in touch. And she called it the Appalachian On Time
Music gathering.
Music gathering, yes.
Dina's based in rural Virginia, near Orange, Virginia. And so she and her husband own a farm out there, and she brought together another one of these, some of the same people we just listed before. And so that's been also a really meaningful community that's multi-generational and centers Black folks and people who are interested in celebrating the African American contributions to what's often termed Appalachian music. But so it's definitely shaped somewhat by our climate here. It's shaped by the fact that the white folks showed up. It took them longer to come and colonize this part of the United States. And so as a result, the tradition is younger here, whereas you had the white folks gathering over in the Virginias, for instance, at least 100 years before there was a significant white population in this part of the country. So, and that's obviously, I'm not saying that to exclude people. I'm saying because so much of how traditional music is taught and discussed centers white folks. And so that's the challenge that we faced as Northwest folk musicians, is that the institutions don't really respect what happens over here as traditional, because it hasn't been happening long enough, and it hasn't gained that same.
It hasn't gained popularity
or notoriety in the right circles or something, so that it's seen as just like singer-songwriters. Or so going back to my mentor, Hobie Kiter, he's somebody who wrote music. It was really not really commercially motivated. It was to share the story of people he knew and interviewed. It was to celebrate a regional culture, Northwest culture. And so all of those things make me think that it's very legitimate to classify it as folk music. There are influences of blues and folk music from other parts of the United States that help shape the music that I'm trying to classify as Northwest folk music. That you could look at Woody Guthrie's music, which he wrote a batch of songs out here in 1941 that Woody Guthrie is accepted as a folk musician. So, his famous songs from that period, Pastures of Plenty, Roll on Columbia, they're accepted as folk songs because they're written by someone who is an icon of the music. But at the same time, Guthrie was writing for a specific purpose. He was writing on contract with the government to help promote the building of the dams, and which is ultimately regrettable because the dams continue to destroy our salmon habitat here. So when you get into tradition, it always connects back to the people and the politics and the conditions that change the music. So Woody Guthrie changed old folk songs like Goodnight Irene for his purposes in the Northwest. So maybe you would say that's not really a traditional song, because a real traditional song is one that nobody knows who wrote the song. It's so old and so obscure that that was composed by an anonymous person. And so some people want to be hardlined about it like that. I think that tradition is always evolving, changing, and growing. And so that we should embrace that. And that is something that a lot of people struggle with in the kind of blues that Tina and I perform, because a lot of the singers have passed. Would you want to talk about how you think of tradition in blues?
Generally.
Yeah. Think about it generally.
It also refers to blues.
Yeah.
But you're learning it from your ancestors and your elders, and the other part of it is continuing that line and teaching what you're being taught from your elders to those who are younger than you.
And that's something we take very seriously.
That's what tradition is. It's knowledge that's passed through the generations, and we all have a really big part in that. And some of us are less aware of that, and so we tend to forget that tradition is really just as simple as communicating with the people around you, no matter what their age is or anything else.
It's a lot of it, I think, is educating ourselves in terms of what white people can do. There's a lot of great books out there that you can simply Google how to be anti-racist, and a lot of great resources will pop up. But beyond self-education, beyond having good conversations, Tina and I have kind of boiled it down to an acronym: MARCH.
March.
And MARCH stands for movement,
Acknowledgement.
is the A word. R is renewal.
Renewal.
C
C is
collaboration.
collaboration.
And H
H is heritage.
is heritage.
Yes.
Our music is important because our music is a way of instituting our values and spreading our values, which are essential to the health of our nation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The risk is that we'll forget.
We'll forget and repeat the many mistakes we've already made.
Mm-hmm.
Our music,
The risk is people won't hear what's really going on. I mean,
and they won't hear perspectives that have been silenced for too long. Our music is about making people more informed about our history, because you can't even forget it if you don't know it in the first place, and a lot of people don't know it in the first place.